What is Escape from Tarkov? Escape from Tarkov is an immersive first-person shooter set in a fictional Russian Novrinsk region. The atrocities that the Megacorp terror group have been conducting behind the scenes have set the area into a war zone, fighting over territory as well as survival of the inhabitants that live there. Your primary method of play is a PMC, either from the American United Security, USEC, or from the Russian Battle and Counter Assault Regiment, BEAR. Your goals in the game are to complete quests for a variety of traders in the game, level up with each of them as well as your account, and to survive. That's the primary focus of the game. Being able to handle the harsh world that is Tarkov, dealing with the AI citizens that have armed themselves to defend their land, themselves, and combating other players to get out safely. When you first boot up the game, either with a brand new account or immediately after a wipe, which is a time when the developers reset everybody, you will be asked to choose which faction you would like to play as. Apart from one specific location on a certain map, this choice is primarily cosmetic in nature. USEC speak English and BEAR speak Russian and a little bit of broken English. From there, you will be able to choose a face and voice that your PMC will use throughout your experience. Note that your voice can be changed at any time in the settings, however the face cannot be changed, so make sure you choose one that you don't mind staring at for potentially months on end. After that, you will be loaded into the main menu. From here we have some options to click on. Escape from Tarkov, which is your main method of loading into matches, or raids as they're called. Character, which will take you to your personal stash. Trading will bring up the menu that allows you for buying and selling of goods from the vendors in the game. And Hideout, which will take you to your personal shelter that can be upgraded with a variety of modules to make your life easier in the world of Tarkov. Now, before we do anything, let's open up the Settings tab in the bottom right of our screen. Here we're going to click over to the Game tab. On this menu there are a bunch of options at your disposal to change and adjust to your liking, but we want to focus on two: the FOV of the game and the head bobbing option. Both are on sliders, and for FOV, you definitely want to pull the game out even just a little bit, whatever is most comfortable for you, but for head bobbing, drop that all the way down to its lowest setting, 0.2. This slider adjusts how much the screen bobs up and down when walking, shooting, reloading, and performing other actions. If you leave this setting on as its default, you will probably get sick from all the screen bobbing in no time, so remember to lower this setting. For now, that's all we're going to do in the Settings tab for the time being. You can go in and adjust the graphics to help with performance and visual fidelity, and again, this is all personal preference and what your PC can handle. Let's start with the character screen because you'll find yourself spending a lot of time here. On the left you have your character and the gear that is currently equipped. Your PMC can wear a helmet, headphones, body armor, chest rig, two primary weapons, a pistol, melee weapon, armbands, eye covers, and a backpack. And one huge game mechanic as well, the secure container. Depending on which version of Tarkov you've purchased, you will be given a secure container. Anything inside that box will be safe upon death. Now, initially, again, depending on which version of the game you purchased, you will be given a variety of basic equipment to help you get started in the game. These items range from weapons, ammo, meds, helmets, armor, rigs, and backpacks. By dragging them onto the empty character silhouette on the left, you will be equipped to your PMC with that piece of gear. Under normal circumstances, you don't normally want to bring in more than one weapon into a raid because weapons can be expensive in the early game, especially when you don't have a ton of money. Speaking of, there are three currencies in the game: rubles, which was what you primarily use, euros, which is the least used, and dollars, which one of the traders primarily only buys in. Money is used to buy things from the traders, but is also used for quests and upgrading modules in the hideout. Money is a funny thing in Tarkov because many care so much about that number that they'll be hesitant to use it sometimes, myself included. But the philosophy in Tarkov is that money comes and goes, and if you want to make money, sometimes you need to spend money. And as you progress through the game, you will definitely notice this later on. One of the core components of Tarkov that makes it so interesting for many is the level of depth that comes from being able to customize and change how your guns look. There are literally thousands of attachments that can be swapped out to make so many different kinds of guns in the game. And while you're seeing some examples in the background, this level of freedom isn't open until very late into the game. You will be spending a lot of time early on with only a couple attachments, if at all, on your weapons, but once you get far enough in, the possibilities for weapon modding are almost endless. So let's say you're level 1, fresh account, and want to go into a raid relatively light. Something like a pistol, body armor, chest rig, and a backpack is not a bad starting loadout, but of course use whatever you're willing to lose. you'd think that bringing in more powerful weapons and armor would help you stay alive, and in most cases, yeah, you're correct. However, Tarkov is a kind of different beast in that even if you bring the best of the best, depending on how far into a wipe we may be in, even that won't be enough to keep you alive. Each piece of equipment kind of speaks for itself. Helmets and body armor will keep you alive should you take damage from AI or other players. Chest rigs are used to hold your magazines, spare ammo, medication, or grenades. And backpacks are for storing loot of any kind. Note that there are also chest rigs that have armor built into them, and that those cannot be worn with normal body armor. If you're ever in a raid and can't get their chest rig on, it might be because you still have armor on and they're using an armored rig. So a light game early kit could look something like this. Nothing crazy, just a pistol, basic armor, chest rig, and some mags. Now, one important thing to note about magazines are reloading. You need to have space in either your chest rig or pockets depending on what kind of mag you're reloading. So if it's a magazine for a rifle that takes up 2 vertical cells, if there isn't a slot for that mag in your chest rig, the magazine in your weapon will be dropped onto the floor and you will reload another mag from your pouch into the weapon. So to put it simply, never fill up your chest rig completely with stuff. This way you're not fumbling around looking for a lost magazine. But now that we have our kit, it's time to enter into a raid. By clicking on Escape from Tarkov, you will be taken to the map selection menu. There are a total of now 10 maps in the game that can be played on. All but one is accessible to you, the exception being Terror Group Labs, which requires a lab access card to get into. But other than that, every map has 2 times that can be played on. One is usually daytime with the chance of it being sunrise or sunset, and the other time being during the night. Now, most of the time you will want to play this game when it's daytime, because while at night is a totally different experience and arguably more enjoyable sometimes, if you don't have the right equipment for nighttime raids, i.e. night vision goggles, you will struggle to navigate and find your way around maps. But once you select your map in time, you will have the choice of insuring your gear, because the main gimmick of Tarkov is that when you die, unless it was in your secured container, whatever was on your person is lost when you die. Unless that is, you insured your gear. What this does is give you a chance of having your loot returned to you should no one find it and take it with them. Granted, the cost of insurance depends on the gear you're insuring as well as your reputation with the traders, because as you level up the vendors and unlock better gear for purchase, the cost of insurance also goes up. So depending on what your money situation is, it might be wise to only insure your gun or only insure your armor. Regardless, it's a way of sometimes getting your gear back after a couple of days, and when that happens, it always feels good. And finally, we have loaded into a raid. Now the game truly begins. While you are in raid, there are a lot of things that you need to pay attention to, and it can be overwhelming. But for the sake of simplicity, we will focus mainly on keeping yourself alive and in good health, literally. Looking at the health tab, this is where you will see all the problems your PMC has, whether that's damage, bleeds, fractures, lost limbs, whatever's wrong, this is the place to find it. And depending on the situation, you will need to use different medications to patch yourself up. Fixing bleeds is relatively simple. There are 2 kinds of bleeds, light and heavy. Light bleeds are fixed with normal bandages, and heavy bleeds are fixed with tourniquets. While light bleeds need to be fixed, they aren't as scary as heavy bleeds. These can kill you quickly if they are not addressed in a timely manner. So taking care of heavy bleeds as soon as you can is valuable. Same thing for fractures. These happen when you either take damage in your arms and legs or take enough fall damage that one occurs. And depending on where the fracture is, what it does will change. If it's on the arms, it will take longer to aim your weapon and your aim will be shaky and not steady. And if it's on your legs, you will limp and be unable to sprint or even just walk normally. Using a splint will fix the fracture, but using painkillers will also remove the negative effect of a fracture but not fix it. And this is important because leg fractures can cost you your life, so if you don't have a splint, use a painkiller. Just know that if you sprint on a broken leg, you will take damage with every step, so keep that in mind. The worst thing that can happen to you while you're in raid is losing a limb. This happens when you take enough damage that HP of a specific body part hits 0, and depending on the limb, there are more negative side effects. To make it easy, if it's your head or thorax, you die. So your stomach, you will rapidly lose your hydration and food until it hits 0. These can be increased by eating and drinking anything you find in the world or even back in your stash. Just make sure you check to see what they are going to do to your food and water before you consume them, because not all food simply raises those values. Back to losing limbs, losing arms makes aiming harder and losing legs makes mobility harder. But there are 2 vital pieces of treatment that can fix limbs that are zeroed out. The CMS and the Serve 12 kits are injury treatment that will repair body parts and allow you to re-heal them. This process takes 16 seconds for the smaller CMS kit and about 20 seconds for the larger Serve 12 kit. But the Serve 12 kit has more uses and will give you a larger HP pool back once the limb is fixed, meaning you will have more total HP than if you use the CMS kit. But the CMS kit only takes 2 cells while the Serve 12 takes 3 cells, so there are some pros and cons to each one. Either way, use these to fix your limbs while in raid, and you'll be back in action in no time. The only body parts you can't fix are your thorax and your head. If these ever hit 0 and you're somehow still alive, leave the raid immediately, as even just a single point of damage to these parts will kill you. At its core, Tarkov is about survival. Staying alive and extracting from your raids is the most consistent way to earn XP, level up, and not lose all your money. So sometimes killing a single scav, collecting some loot, quest items, and extracting is a solid raid. It doesn't have to be a slaughter where you kill the entire map. That's not the point of Tarkov, especially in the early game. There is nothing wrong with running away from fights, staying out of people's way, and just trying to get your quests done. Granted, Tarkov is full of uncertainties, and you can go into a raid with a plan and then get thrown out the window almost immediately because Tarkov had different plans for you. But being adaptable and willing to change your strategy for the sake of survival is a skill that you will hone as you play more of the game. Remember, you're gonna die a lot in this game, especially if you're new, but being able to look back, reflect, and learn some lessons from a tough death is part of the game and how you become a better player. Don't be discouraged and pay no attention to your survival rating. It resets every wipe and means absolutely nothing. Tarkov is about playing the game and having raids that are so interesting and tell a story that you want to share with your friends. If you find yourself doing that, then even in death, your experiences in the game are being fulfilled. And those are the basics of Escape from Tarkov. I know that was a lot of information thrown at you, and we didn't go over every single mechanic, aspect, and element, but with time and some dedication, you will learn it all very quickly. And if you need more help, please go check out the official Escape from Tarkov wiki. It is a wonderful resource that is essential for new players and will almost answer any questions you have about the game. Ammo charts, quest locations, armor tiers, you name it. Link will be in the description. But I hope this was informal for anyone who might be new to Tarkov and jumping in for the first time. And if you're a veteran of the game, I appreciate your time as well. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Please let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video or found it to be useful. This is my first ever real, guide, and any constructive criticism would be greatly appreciated. I might have missed some things that might have been deemed important, so I apologize if I did, and be sure to subscribe for more videos about all the upcoming changes and the conversations we're going to have about them. I hope to see you in future ones.